Hello, here is BB Walker. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. As you can see, there is another rearrangement in my studio, and I have brought my Yamaha PSR 670 because you have asked for it in many comments, and the topic for today is the modulation wheel, some advanced features and basic also. So if you are interested let's start in a moment. Alright, so we are in our super steady mode and a quick introduction into modulation wheel. Modulation wheel is here next to the pitch band wheel. It actually does some crazy things with your sound. Like this, or depending on the other voices, it could do other things. It actually allows you to modulate amplitude, phase, frequency, and filter. And what does it mean in, practical terms? Let's go deep down to the menu and hidden functions. So, basically, if you are selecting voice, in this moment where we are selecting this Firewire voice, for example, which is hidden in synth category, and we will press this voice set. So it's number 5, bottom line of this context buttons, and you will see here on the page controller. If you are not on page controller, use tabs, go to the controller, and you will see some magic things. Actually, those values are the values that will be set if you move modulation wheel up to the north, I mean to maximum level, because modulation wheel is like a volume pedal, so it has value from 0 to 127 in mini standard, which actually means it has 128 possible values. But if you set those values, like you can see here, that refers to the maximum position of the modulation. Those two behaves in some tricky way, and we will go to it for a moment, but those are working from 0 to the value presented here. So in this case, this effect affects filter maximum to the value 7 and the amplitude maximum to the value 72. So if I play some chord, now the modulation is 0, so down to the south, and I'm moving up and again to 0, it actually changed the value amplitude to 72 and applied the filter to 7. If I increase those value, and again I will start from 0, the filter value is above 64, it's above the average, so the filter will be more bright, more articulated. But if you go to 0, we will completely mute the sound. Let's check the difference. So thanks to these parameters, you can play with it. If you want those two values remain unchanged during playing with modulation, you need to set it to the middle value, which is 64, because this algorithm works in this way that if you have 64 and rest will be 0, the modulation wheel will do nothing. Let's check it. To be, 100% true, please take a look. I play chord. I move modulation wheel up and down and nothing happens. So this value means do not do anything with filter, amplitude, phase modulation, frequency modulation, and amplitude modulation. And those settings are reserved for LFO. And LFO is low frequency oscillator. If you want to know more about frequency oscillators, the theory of creation music, please check the description. There is a video about ADSR, envelope, and so on and so on. Basically, phase modulation thanks to phase modulation, you can create a phaser effect. So let's add some spice and play now. Woo! Less value, less phase. Let's go to 0. Let's play with frequency modulation, so it will be the vibrato effect. Yes? And the last one is amplitude modulation of the low frequency oscillator, so it could give me a tremolo effect. You can see how those amplitudes, so the volume oscillates, so go ups and down on the tempo, and the low frequency oscillators is a carrier. So it's of course some kind of theory, but you can use it to play and to experiment and to do something. And let's go back to those two first values. So let's go down with the LFO. Let's leave the LFO unchanged. So let's go again to the value, to the initial value, when modulation will do nothing. And now, if you set modulation wheel to maximum, the amplitude is volume, okay? And what does it mean? It means if I hit the modulation wheel up to the north, so to the maximum level, the value should be 127. And you may be asking yourself, what the value will be for the minimum level? The answer is 64, I mean 0. And let's take a look how it works. Now the modulation wheel will be working as volume pedal. So please, 0, nothing is playing, I'm moving up. Maximum, so we use the modulation wheel to build the volume pedal. Without volume pedal, of course. Another trick, if you go to the opposite situation, so you move with the amplitude to 0, it means if I hit the maximum value of modulation wheel, the volume should be 0, so I will use it exactly opposite situation to the volume pedal. So on the minimum level will be maximum sound, but if I go up, there is silence. And of course every value in between, so you can use it to do such a thing. So it's interesting, I think. Alright, and the filter works exactly in the same way. So if you have 64, nothing will happen with the amplitude. And if you go up with the filter, there will be going up with the filter, so there will be more bright sound. And if you go down with the filter to the maximum level, it will be 0, so the sound will be muted because we cut the upper frequencies and leave only the lowest. Okay, so this is all if we are talking about setting these parameters. And you must remember one thing. If I now hit exit, if I play something with my modulation wheel settings and I will hit exit, there is an information that this info, which means what to do with your modulation wheel, is set to the voice. And if you want to save those patterns, you need to save this voice as your own voice. There is a lot of video. So let's make my own phaser crazy firewire, and let's save it using this save into user space, and let's call it firewire UFO. Whatever. UFO. And now this firewire will work completely. As you can see now, my voice is UFO. So this information is attached to the voice, and if I select again the original firewire and I will load it into memory, it will work as it works on a default way. So please remember that modulation wheel settings is set to the voice. And it should be saved as the voice, and selected voice if you have, you can use it and save in registration memory. If you want to know more about registration memory, please check the video. There is another video about registration memory, and of course a lot of other videos on my channel. The last tip, the last thing in this video that I would like to show you, so if you go to function, and if you go to controller, and if you go to keyboard pedal here, you have some settings to the modulation wheel. I will need to zoom in to show you. So basically here you can choose which voices, left, right, or only right, should be enabled if you check and if you move the modulation wheel. So In some cases, mostly if you play dual voice or left hand and right hand, probably you may have the desire to have the modulation will effects only on this one particular voice. So here you can change those configuration. It means the voices have its own modulation wheel data saved within the voices, but thanks to these settings it will be discarded. I mean, there will be no effect using the modulation wheel. So I think it's all for now for this video. If you like my channel, if you want to have more videos about PSR-S 670 or PSR 975, of course all of this you can also do on this channel, or you want to know more about Looper, or maybe about my new interface Scarlett's 8 whatever. It got 8 inputs, so maybe something with computer and MIDI controllers, or maybe guitar effects, anything. Just give me a comment and I will create a video for you. So happy holiday, thanks for all your great comments for me. I really appreciate it, and see you later. It was BB Walker. Don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.